Okay, so we have seen these terminology in the last lecture, like training error, training loss, testing error, testing loss, overfit, underfit, bias, variance. So you can say if your model is not trained enough, or you can say your training is bad, then that is underfit problem. Major problem is underfit, means your training itself is not good. So this is also like sometimes it is also known as a bias problem, right? Or underfit problem, right? Then there is another bucket B2, when your training is looks good, but while you test in the new data, or you can say testing data, then it's giving a very bad result. It means it overtrained actually, you can say, because it start remembering the training data or focus only on the training data, then that problem, like in that case testing error will be high, or even the testing loss will be high, and that situation is known as overfit situation, or you can say that model have variance problem. So these are the terminology that normally most of the places they used. So we have seen the bias and variance over there. So we also experimented, like we have seen this graph. So you can say this example, so you want to fit in this example this kind of curve. So we found if you fit a simple straight line, that green straight line, then training loss itself will be very high. So you can say this green line is underfit model. Now if you say like I want to cover each and every point, I want to take care each and every point, then you create a red curve, or you can say red color curve. Then this, once a new data will come, then this red curve will give very bad result. So this is overfit problem, and what we want something like blue, so which is like a good curve which has less training error and less testing error both. So that is a good curve, we can say, right? So that is our motive to once we train the model. So we have seen like if you have a low complex architecture or model, then your training error will be higher. As you increase the complexity of the model, your training error will go low and low, right? But if you look into the testing error, if you increase the, so you can say this is model complexity, if you increase the complexity, definitely training error is goes low, but after certain time your test error is going to increase. And suppose you stop somewhere here in this point, then it is straightforward is saying you have overfitted the model. Training error or training loss is very less, but the testing loss is very high, or testing error is very high. It means you are saying your model is overfit model, right? So this is like a good range for us. Now here we have few terminology: high bias, low variance, high, so those kind of. So suppose your training accuracy is 60% and test accuracy is 58%. It means your training itself is not good. So you can say high bias problem. And why low variance? Because whatever you train, based on that your testing accuracy is close to the training accuracy. So you can say low variance problem. Now in the second case, we said our training accuracy is 60, but test accuracy is much worse than training. So you can say high bias because of training and high variance because it is not even able to achieve the training accuracy. So you can say high variance problem, right? Now, if you say your training error is 98%, so these numbers is not fixed, just you have to find out the relation. So if you are saying your training error is 98% and your testing error is 70%, so it's a low bias but high variance. And what is good? This is the good, right? What we want, if you have 98% good accuracy of the training and 96 or 97, you can say your testing accuracy, then it is low bias and low variance. Now this is a hypothetical, or you can say sometimes if you got like a 60% accuracy in the training and 90% suddenly accuracy in the testing, so means you have to look into the data distribution. It is very much possible, suppose you have 100 data points and out of 100 data points 90 data points you have given to the training and only 10 data points you have given to the testing. So for these 10, by chance it performs better, so it doesn't mean your model is good, right? So means it is not generalized, but by chance it performs good for least number of data points, or they have some same variety of data points and on that it is performing very well. So this is a more on data distribution problem if you got this kind of situation. So you have to look into the data as well. right? In case of you can say tree based method or decision tree based method, how it start training, it is start splitting the data, right? So means it is number of splits is going high and high, and based on that your tree size will increase. So as you move forward, you do more split, and further you once you reach to like a end point, so every output is represented by one single node. This is the maximum you can do in the decision tree. So in that case, you can say that your decision tree is overfit. Once new data will come, definitely it will not perform well. So you have to control your split, how much split we want. So that you will get a good point here, right? So that is the accuracy graph. As you increase after a certain point, as you increase the split high and high, in that case, you found like your testing accuracy is reducing down, but training accuracy is increasing and increasing continuously. So you have to stop somewhere in this situation so that your training and testing accuracy both will be accepted, right? So that happened in the decision tree kind of structure, where you are controlling in the split based. So then we have seen these two terminology. This is the way how to handle this. You can say overfit. So one way to adjust the step size. Why step size is important? Definitely it's either overfit or underfit. If your step size is high, then it will go like it will instead of converging, it will diverge. When you say step size means you are talking about the alpha, because that will control the step size, right? Second is stopping criteria, as we discussed in the last lecture. You have to decide some criteria, like suppose you are saying your model is not improving in next 10 iteration, then you can say you have to stop. Or once you see improving means the test accuracy is not improving. So we always not talk about the training accuracy, test accuracy is not improving, then you can stop, right? Or you can say it improves very slightly and suddenly it start decreasing, so then immediately you have to stop. And the third way, that is the regularization. So regularization will control at the time of training itself. So you remember the formula. So initial formula was just this loss. So you can say in case of logistic regression, this will be log loss. And in case of you can say linear regression, this will be quadratic loss, right? Squared loss, you can say, right? So in that case, what we have done, we added a additional term, that is the weights. So here you can say this particular part is known as the regularizer part, right? Now what this regularizer is doing, so if you remember the training itself, so what loss wants, this loss contribute to increase the weights. So for example, if you start from all weights equal to 0, right? Suppose your all weights are equal to 0. Once you do the training, what will happen to weights? Suppose you start the training, what will happen to weights? Yes, guys. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So the weight value will modify definitely. So either it will go positive direction or it will go negative direction. Means either it will get some positive values or it will get some negative values. Once you train further, what will happen? Few weights will start increasing, right? Either in positive direction or in negative direction. So if you are seeing increasing means we are talking about here magnitude, right? We are not talking about the sign, either negative sign or positive sign, but it is continuously increasing. And as the weights are increasing means you are starting looking into the individual data points here, right? So means this particular loss try to increase the weights definitely in either direction, either positive or negative. Once we say increase the weights means we are talking about the magnitude of weight, right? So if your magnitude will become very high towards the training example, then your loss will become very low if you consider only first part of this loss, right? So what they so and that situation is known as overfitting situation. So what they have done, they in order to control it, they add another point or another term, that is the weighted sum, that is the, you can say, sum of the logs. So this is known as L1 norm, right? So L1 norm means you just take the magnitude summation, or you can say mod of Wj. All weights will be added. So either it is positive or negative. Both the cases, this second term will be increased if weights are high, right? Getting? Any doubt till this point? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, if you look into this total loss, so now actually what our gradient descent will do. So let me erase some points here so that okay, I can erase only the new one. Okay, let me erase this. Right. So if you look into this loss function, so now your loss function is modified, and this loss function will become combination of these two, right? So now what our learning algorithm will try, it will try to reduce the total values, right? Total, which include the loss, the base loss, you can say, as well as the weights summation, right? So in that case, what will happen? One side, you can say this is the first part. Let me represent it as the first part, and this is the second part. So what it will do? It will simply, so let me make a graph, then it will give more clarity. What it try to do, so let me say this is the graph, and this one is the loss, the traditional loss, and this is the regularizer, right? And let me say this is the weight value W, right? So in that case, what will happen? Suppose I will say, as we increase the weights or as we decrease the loss, the weights will increase. If you talk about the traditional either log loss or you can say squared loss, right? But in case of if you look into this regularizer term, as we increase the weights, this regularizer, what will happen to the regularizer? It will increase. So let me say it will start increasing because it is nothing, it is a summation of weights. So as weights will increase, this will also increase. So what we want this sweet point. So what we want to find out the sweet points where this is have lower loss as well and lower value of regularizer. So this will become your good fit for your model once you train based on this complete loss function, or you can say new loss function. Getting? So it will, so first term will try to force to reduce the loss, and second term try to force to reduce the weights. So means both are conflicting in this point, and once you find out a sweet point, you will get a good function that is not overfitted function. And this is the idea behind the regularizer. Any doubt, guys? Yeah.
So please explain why the regularizer decreases the weights. We are taking the absolute value. So please explain this point.
Sure. Just give me more space here. So what happened if you are saying the loss, the new loss, you can say new loss. So let me write the loss here, or instead of saying loss, let me say cost, which includes the entire thing. So it is 1 upon m summation, sometimes 2m as well, I equal to 0 to m, and let me say loss loss of h of wx, right? And this can be log loss, or you can say squared loss, both can be there, right? Now we are saying here we have regularizer term, that is summation of w's. Let me say k equal to 1 to t and wk, and this is the summation, right? Now if you look into the total loss, what will happen? This will become the total loss. Agreed? Getting or not? This one, right? This will become your total loss. Now, as I said, this part of loss, or you can say first part of loss, let me change the color so that easily differentiate. So the first part of loss, this is trying to decrease the W value. The magnitude, this will try to increase the magnitude of W, right? To reduce the loss. Now, if you look into this, right? What this will do, this will try to decrease the magnitude of W. Now you can say how exactly it will decrease. So this is your loss function, and what your gradient descent will do, what your gradient descent will do, it will try to minimize the loss, or you can say the cost. Now the cost here is not only this term. Cost means it include both the things, right? It include both the things. So if you just try to reduce this, what will happen? This will start increasing because it is trying to increase the weights. So this, the first term will try to increase the weights. As weights will increase, what happened to this term? If your weights are increasing, what happened to second term? It will increase or decrease? Yes. If
Increase.
your weights, it's your weights are increasing, the second term also increase. So it means in your entire equation, if you say first part is like, so as weights are increasing, definitely this first part will decrease, but in the same time this will increase. But in other hand, you can say if your weights are small, then second part will be lower, but first part will be higher, right? So in that sense, once you try to optimize both together, then this will give you a good fit that is not overfitted. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Getting? So second part, what it will, when second part will be best, when the values are 0, right? Then it will be best. So let me say, sorry, lambda is missing, lambda should be there, right? So now if you look into the formulation, so this is like a general formula. So let me write the exact formulation. So you can say your JW, what we have seen, is equal to 1 upon 2m summation I equal to 0 to m h of w x of I minus y of I whole square, right? This is the square loss what we have seen, but as we added a new term, so that will also be added here. Lambda by 2 summation j equal to 1 to d, those many weights, and wj, right? So in that way, this will become your total cost. Initially only first part was the cost. Now with regularizer, the second part will also increase. So you can say this second part is your regularizer. So let me say this is your so this is a L1 norm. So in the L1 norm you will take just a mod. Now if you want to take a L2 norm, there is another variety. So this is with the L1 norm. Let me say L1 norm. Now if you say L2 norm, what will happen? The cost function will be Wj equal to 1 upon 2m summation I equal to 0 to m h of wx of I minus y of I square. So this will remain same, only story change here. This is summation j equal to 1 to d, and then wj square will be there. This is become your L2 now, right? So either you use mod value or you use L2 norm, right? So these two things are there. So you can find out which one is better, which one is not better. That is a separate story, or you can say that you can find out separately. I think Mano is shared one link also in the group, so you can read that link, which one is better, when first one is better, when second one is better. So you can go through it. Now once we have this formulation, here we have one value, that is lambda value, right? This we already know what is wj, this is the w values. Here we have new value, that is the lambda value, right? So if you look into the lambda value, suppose lambda is 0 and second case lambda is very high, and let me say lambda is 10 to the power 10. So now when it is 0, it is quite clear this entire term will be gone and you have remained with the original loss function. Now suppose you make lambda value very high, then what will happen? what impact will come into the loss, or what impact will come to the weight values. If lambda is very high, let me say very high means 10 to the power 10 or 10 to the power 20 something, then what will happen to W? Yeah,
very low, underfitting.
so it will actually, what it will do, it will try to reduce W as much as possible, or you can say it will try to make all W's towards the zero, because once it's all becomes zero, then this part will become, actually this will become the minimal value. When it will be minimal, when this part will be the all W will be zero, so this part will become minimal, right? So if you have high value of lambda, it will try to force you towards the underfit, and if you have low value of lambda, it will try to force you, or it will try to reach you in the overfit. So what we want a good lambda value, like alpha value. Previously we have seen some alpha value, so we want a good lambda value that will help you to control the regularizer. You can say the power of regularizer is controlled by this lambda value. How much lambda we want, based on that you will decide like what is the impact of regularizer. So the controlling of regularizer will goes to the lambda value, right? And this is a hyper parameter. You can say you have to choose like alpha learning rate, you have choose 0.001. Similarly, you can choose some different lambda value and see the impact on the training. Getting? So this is the modification on the cost function. Now, if your cost is modified, then definitely your weight update equation is also going to modify, because what we do, you will take gradient, or you can say differentiation of this cost function to update the weights, right? That is the gradient descent. You will update, in order to update the weights, you will take the differentiation of this entire you can say equation. So then what will be the updated weight value? Let's look into that. So the updated weight value will become Wj equal to Wj minus alpha, that is the learning rate, 1 upon m summation I equal to 1 to m h of Wxi minus yi into x of j minus, now this new term will come because of regularizer Wj, right? So this will become your, you can say this will become your gradient value for the loss function, this modified gradient. So if you try to simplify further, you will get Wj equal to 1 minus, so you just multiply alpha here, so alpha lambda and Wj both will be common, so 1 minus alpha lambda into Wj minus remaining term alpha 1 upon m h of summation, sorry I missed the summation I equal to 0 to m h of Wx of I minus yi x of j, right? So you can see the impact on training. If you see the impact on training, it is coming here. So instead of taking as it is the entire Wj value, what it is doing, it is try to reduce the consideration of Wj, right? That weight updates will be reduced. Getting? So this term will be added, so it means the complete weight or the original weights, so you are not taking the original weights, you are reducing with some factor, and that is the regularizer factor. Getting everyone? Any doubts on that? Anyone, any doubt? So once you do the gradient of this, you can say gradient of your loss function, and you compute it, you compute the equation, the modified equation will become like this, right? Anyone, any doubt on this till this point? Guys, any doubt? Yes, no, कुछ तो बोल दो.
नो सर, नो सर.
सर एक क्वेश्चन था.
हाँ.
सर अगर लैम्डा बढ़ाएंगे सर तो ओवरफिटिंग की तरफ नहीं जाना चाहिए एज द लैम्डा इंक्रीजेस.
No, once lambda will increase, what will happen? The weight values will decrease. You can say, let's go back to the error term. If you increase the lambda value, right, it means you are giving more weightage to this part compared to this part, right? So let me change the color. So if you are giving more weightage to this part, right? If you increase the lambda value, getting, and this part will be the lowest one, because ultimately what your gradient descent is doing, it will try to reduce the loss value. If it is a minimization gradient descent, then it will try to reduce, right? So once the lambda value is high, means more focus of your gradient descent algorithm or learning algorithm will goes towards this second part, and it will be minimum when weights are 0. So it will try to reduce the weights value. Getting?
Yes sir, ठीक है.
Clear?
Yes sir.
Right. Similarly, we have in the decision tree, what is there? So as we seen, as we split more, then decision tree will goes towards the you can say towards the overfitting. So what we have done, so here whatever the original loss, or you can say here we have added the alpha of, so you can say in our case you can say this is lambda instead of alpha. Let me be consistent. This is lambda log base 2 number of nodes. So as you increase number of nodes, your loss will be increases, right? So here the first term again, it will try to increase more nodes. It will try to increase more nodes, right? But second term, as it is will be higher, this value will be higher, but ultimately this will impact higher loss. But what our algorithm want, it want to reduce the loss. So this number of nodes, so this term will try to reduce number of rows, and based on that we'll try to manage the you can say overfitting. So this is like how in the decision tree it will work. Like now let's suppose we have two different classifier like C1 and C2, and we want to choose which one is better. So definitely we have seen multiple matrices. Yeah.
So just for a second, can you go up one slide up? Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, any question on that?
No, sir, I just missed the point. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So now here we have, suppose we have two classifiers, right? And we want to check which classifier is better, right? So how you will choose that classifier is better? Based on training accuracy or based on test accuracy? Which is the right way to choose a good classifier? Training or testing? Yes?
So testing.
Testing, like, because ultimately whenever we have new data, then your classifier should perform better. Whatever data we already have, there is no meaning that perform only good in the existing data. The good model is the model when you perform good in the new data, means you have to focus on the testing accuracy instead of training accuracy, right? So sometimes what happened, like in general what we are doing, we have full data and then we divide this entire data into two parts. One part is training data and second part is test data, right? Or you can say validation data. Then you train your model on the training data. After training, you look into the test set and we check this model is giving good performance on test data or not. But suppose like this test data is not like a, you can say not enough to test, right? And even you do not have enough data as well, so that you can give a big amount of data to the test data. In that case, what we are doing, we are using the cross validation. So how this cross validation is working, we are splitting the entire data into n number of parts, or you can say k number of parts, right? And then what we do, we will pick one part from that k different parts as a test data, and remaining part will go to the train data. Then in the next time, you will pick second part and remaining will be the train data. Then you pick third part, remaining will be the train data. So let's understand with one example. Suppose here we have full data set. We divided into 3 parts. So in the first time, or you can say when you train the algorithm first time, you will take first part as a trace data and second part as a train data, right? Then in the second, you can say again once you train further, then you take second part as a test data, remaining 2 parts as a training data. Then again, once you train, then you train on the third part will be as a test data and remaining part will be the train data. So in that sense, now once you check the performance, suppose we want to check the performance of that, you will check the performance of first part, second part and third part, and then take the average it out. So the classifier which perform in all these test data, or you can say all 3 part of test data, that model is the best model for us, and this is known as k-fold cross validation, right? So here k means, in this example k is 3, but it can go like 10-fold cross validation or 5-fold cross validation and so on. So ultimately what this k-fold cross validation is doing, it divides the entire data into k parts, and you choose one part at a time as a test data, then second part as a test data, then third part as a test data, and so on. In that way you are trying to solve the less number of data points. Suppose you do not have enough data points, then cross validation is really good way to handle that situation, so that your model will test it on the entire data whatever you have, but at a particular moment only part of data will be the test data. So that is known as cross validation.
Sir?
Yeah.
But sir, if we are taking test data at different partitions, but suppose that partition is already be trained, used in the training data, then won't it be not a realistic estimate that if a model is performing well or not? For example, in the first partition, we took the uppermost, then we use the second one, but the second one is already used as training data in the first partition.
True.
Or are we training individual models on each partition?
We are training the same model.
It's same weight, sir. But so then test data has already been trained on a model, so it should perform better.
It should be modified as per the training data.
Okay, sir.
Your point is completely valid. So that's why if you remember in the beginning when I said I want to divide the data, we divide into 3 parts. One part going for the training, second part will go for the test or validation. So this is sometimes like a conflicting term. So you can say validation here, right? So now what we'll do, you will do cross validation in this data only, right? So that once your model is ready, then you test with the validation data, and that will be the final testing, you can say. So that even if we remember the data, then it will fail in the validation point, right? In that way you can take care. Yeah. Any question, guys? Anyone? Okay. So what we are doing, we are simply, you can make a learning curve as well. So here we have made a learning curve. As we will move ahead with the model, so like first validation part, second validation part, third validation part, and so on, because we are training the same model, definitely your score will be increasing, right? Initially it is not a good score, then slowly your score will be increasing, the cross validation score. And when we say cross validation score, it means it is the combination of all the data, all the cross validation points, that is the average out, right? That is the cross validation score. So in that way we are able to get a good curve, or this cross validation curve will help you to get a better algorithm, right? So once we make this learning curve, what we will do, definitely this is very important to shuffle the data. Maybe your data is ordered data, or it is can be like a order by the alphabets or numbers or something. Then first you need to shuffle the data, divide them, and once you create the score, for example you want to create the score for C1 and C2, so first you will take this curve for C1, then here you will take curve for C1, here you will take curve for C1, and you make a curve for C1 like this, Right. Similarly, you will create a curve for C2, so might be it will start and something like this, more learning or more score. So in that way, you will compare both the performance of C1 and C2, or even if you have some other classifier as well. Ready? So we have seen two things here. One is the how to manage the overfit problem or underfit problem. So if you have an underfit problem, means your training itself is not good. You have to focus on the training. You have to focus on the learning rate. You have to focus on the data distribution if your model is underfit, right? In case of overfit, you have to, like, you can add a regularizer term. You can impose a new methodology, that is early stopping, or sometimes it is because of learning rate as well. So you have to look into these perspective whenever your model is overfit or underfit, right? Now let's look into a different variety of algorithm that, so till now, so before jumping into that, till now what we have seen, suppose with the help of training data we created our hypothesis h of wx, that is w0 x0 plus w1 x1 plus and so on wn xn. Now just one question, once the training is over, once your training is over, do we require the training data after training completed? Like once training is completed, then do we require the training data? In till now, whatever scenario we have seen, whatever learning algorithm we have seen, do we needed the training data?
So only in instance-based algorithms we require the training data, else we don't.
Means we gone through gradient descent, we gone through Newton's method, we gone through decision tree based method. In any one of them require training data after completing the training?
No, sir.
No. So here this is known as parametric learning algorithm. This is known as parametric learning algorithm. So in this parametric, like whatever we have seen till now, these all are parametric learning algorithm. Once your training is done, means your parameters are trained. Now you do not need any training examples to make the inference. There is another variety of algorithm that is known as non-parametric learning algorithm. Right. In this non-parametric learning algorithm, we required the data to make the inference. We required the input data to make the inference. Right. So let's understand one variety of algorithm, how exactly it look like. So what we want, suppose we have some data points. Right, let me say we have some data points like this. Something like this, right? Now, whenever you want to make a prediction, so let me color. Whenever you want to make a prediction in this point, right? What will happen? Your algorithm will look into the close by inputs and make a line and give you prediction. So this will be your predicted value, right? That is the way how this non-parametric learning algorithm operate. Now, for example, suppose you have a input, you have a testing sample somewhere here. Then what you will do? You will pick closed by values, and you will fit a straight line, and then you will give a output here based on this straight line. So means instead of, suppose you want to perform some inference here, so means what you will do, you will take some close one points and you will make a straight line, and this will be your output. So instead of creating one line or one curve, we are creating multiple curves based on the local data, right? And this methodology is known as locally weighted regression. So this particular way is known as locally weighted regression. Right. So we will see. So we will see in the next lecture, not in this lecture. Next lecture, how we'll make such kind of algorithm that is the locally weighted. That will focus on the local part, and it will not focus on the external parts, or it has a very less focus on the far away points. It has more focus on the local point. So we will see this in the next lecture, how we'll make or how we'll develop an algorithm that will give a focus, or you can say that will create a local inference tool. Now one challenge here, as the amount of data increase, suppose instead of here we have just few amount of data, as your data amount or amount of data is increased, your model will also grow up, right? Your model will also grow. Definitely that is a linear growth, but it will increase. So can anyone tell me why it is growing as amount of data is increasing? But in our previous case, in this case, that is not. As data is increasing, your model is not growing. Model will remain same. But in non-parametric, or this you can say locally weighted regression, as your data is increasing, your model size is also increasing linearly. Right? So anyone can give any idea why it is happening here? Any guess? Any guess?
So number of instances are increasing, that's why.
So like for example, I have a model and I want to do prediction somewhere here, right? So you require these input samples. Without these input samples, whatever in the training data, you cannot produce a output. You require those input samples, or you can say you will see the algorithm. Actually, you require all the input samples to make the prediction, right? So here, as your training data is increasing, your model size is also increasing. Means you need to first load the training example and then you make the inference. So here the training is very fast, but the inference is very slow. So that is the problem in this locally weighted regression. Definitely quality of result will be high in many cases, but they have a big problem of the inference, big problem of the testing time, right? So we'll discuss all those things in the next lecture, how to make the model, how to create such kind of model, and how to control it. All those things we'll see in the next lecture. Okay guys, so that's it for today. And one announcement, in this week we was planning for the quiz, but for next 4 days I'm out of station for some work, so there is no quiz in the this week. Quiz is postponed for the next week, so sorry for inconvenience. Even you will get more time to just you can say for the preparation. So thank you guys, we'll catch you in the next lecture.
So what about the coming lectures then?